Hello, everybody. This is Matt and Augie. Alex will be along, probably never, but
hopefully
we'll hold out. And so the next month or so is going to be strictly animation-related podcast. I thought March would be a good time to do it because animation is probably my favorite style of filmmaking now. Granted, it's kind of gone down a little bit, but Disney is still the kings of animation for good reason. And we got 52 movies in their canon.
about that.
I just got done ranking them all. I heard a lot of positives, heard a lot of negatives. I have a right to my opinions. See, the great thing about Disney for me is that Disney affects every person differently, but yet it connects everybody. If you haven't seen a Disney film, I don't know what's wrong with you.
And everybody has their own different favorites, too.
And this will be split up into a couple parts. Because I think it'd be cool to do this early years,
Yeah.
up to Disney's death. Then you do that middle period. Then we do the Renaissance. Then we do the 2000s.
Okay.
So let's start with Snow White.
The first. The innovator. Well, I saw this one again not too long ago, probably a couple of years ago. And it still held up very well. I saw it on Blu-ray, so it looked gorgeous, even for an animation movie made in the late 30s. But the animation was still strong. The characters, of course, very memorable, especially the dwarves, And it's much more low-key than most of Disney's later stuff, which is understandable, given that it's their first movie and they're still testing things out. But for them to come immediately out of the gate with this one with already a high watermark is astonishing.
Yeah, it's in my top 5. If for no other reason, not that it's the first, but it is still amazing to look at. 75 years later that they were able to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I can't. As far as characters go, I think the dwarves are the best thing in it. If you look at Snow White, it is one of the weaker princesses.
I can't quite put it in my personal top 5, maybe even 10, because maybe it's a little too low-key, and compared to the dwarves and the queen, the other characters kind of,
Look, just Snow White.
Yeah, really. And the prince, like other later ones, almost non-existent until the end.
I think the queen. Typically, here's what I think makes a great Disney movie: songs, main characters, villain. I think those are the big 3. Villain's iconic, but I can't. It's probably one of the better ones, but I can't say it's one of the top 5 because it is very. It's very basic, very shallow. Awesome death scene, though.
Well, until the woman says, cut out her heart, in which case she means business now. You'd never be able to get away with that in kids' movies these days.
No. One of the best death scenes, though.
Doesn't she fall down? Or
she's on the cliff, gets zapped with lightning, and the boulder falls on her as she falls. So it's like overkill. That's another great thing about Disney. They were able to get away with some pretty disturbing stuff, which I think more so in the early years.
It's actually perfect for you because the early stuff is very subversive, would you say?
So, Snow White, I think we both give it very high marks. Mm-hmm. Check it out. I mean, if you haven't seen it, why? I want to specifically know why.
Come on, did you somehow lose the 10 years of childhood?
I still have it on VHS. Those Disney VHSs, they came in those days.
I still keep all of mine.
Still waiting on some Blu-rays, though. Especially a big one that I'll touch on later.
Mm-hmm. But the next one, thankfully, is already actually on Blu-ray. Yeah. And that's Pinocchio. And once again, no sophomore slump here. Unquestionably, one of their best movies. It's just everything about Pinocchio works. Really, it doesn't really have. Well, you said Disney's usually great Disney movies have villains, and this one doesn't really have a memorable villain, but it doesn't really need it for the story that it's telling. But all the main characters are excellently written. Of course, everyone remembers Jimmy Cricket, Geppetto, Pinocchio, but I think Figaro needs his time in the sun.
He should get a spin-off. This is my favorite Disney film of all time. I know I mentioned Disney films don't need a great villain, but I think this one gets away with it because the other characters are much stronger. That certainly makes up for it. Because Pinocchio is one of the few films in their canon that's not a straight A to B story.
Yeah.
It's like short films that are put into one. You just have Pinocchio.
It doesn't follow a traditional narrative.
No, it's just Pinocchio meeting different people, learning new lessons. I think it's a great movie to show your kids. Although it's got some pretty effed up stuff. Most notably the donkeys.
The donkeys. And not only that, but they're trying to give Pinocchio tobacco to smoke.
And beer.
And beer, too. They were able to get some stuff in there at the time. And then, of course, there's the famous ending with
the whale.
The whale, yeah. And Mostro.
Probably some of their best animation, too. One of the best Blu-rays that they've ever put out.
Even though we still take for granted the fact that a fox and a cat can just walk around.
And no one questions it.
Even though everyone else in the movie is a human.
With the exception of Pinocchio.
Yeah. But this fox and cat just walk around like it's nothing, just talking.
And it doesn't have a lot of songs, with the exception of
the famous.
And there's the I've Got No Strings, that's one of my favorite animation sequences they've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, I think the typical stuff it's made up for, and the fact that I love this movie so much, it's in my top 10 ever. Check it out.
Our next one is much more experimental than their first two. In fact, it doesn't even follow a story really at all. It's just a chance to
visual poetry
to flex their visual storytelling and animation muscles, which leads to one of my favorite Disney movies of all time. That's Fantasia.
Likewise.
Mm-hmm. It's just everyone remembers the Sorcerer's Apprentice sequence. That sequence is still amazing, but the dinosaur sequence, especially after rewatching again, I completely forgot about the dinosaur sequence, and I can't imagine why, because that part was stunning. Then there's the
hippos,
the hippos, the centaur people laying by the water.
Satan.
Oh yeah, basically Satan just like controlling everything, like puppets with the Night at Bald Mountain music going on. And it's pretty much just like these classical pieces of music playing over these drawn out animation sequences to like give them the music somewhat of a story to play as. And even though The Sorcerer's Apprentice is probably still my favorite one,
mine too.
I would say my favorite fusion of the animation and the music is The Night on Bald Mountain with the Satan. Because that stuff's scary.
Yeah, it is. This is my number 3. It's excellent. I understand it's not for everybody, but I think if you're an artsy person, I hate that term by the way, but if you don't mind, music mixed with visuals, that's what this movie is basically. There's no story. It's just
pretty much if you're an animation buff, this is a must see. Because it's some of their most creative.
I think their first 5, you could say that about all of them.
Mm-hmm. But going back to a little more traditional stuff, and to the low-key nature of Snow White.
And short.
And just making them shorter than you imagine is Dumbo. Just the story of a elephant that gets big ears. And there's really, I love the movie. There's not as much to talk about, really, with this one, because it doesn't really have much of a, arc story. It's really just about Dumbo, just his experiences going around, finding some racist crows on his way.
It's still not the most racist thing Disney's ever done. There's one coming up later that takes the cake.
And getting drunk and tripping balls. Seeing some pink elephants dancing around in his head. Oh, how I'd love to watch that scene in the dark on a big theater screen. I didn't even remember that, like, he got drunk in the movie until the last time I saw it.
I didn't know that either. I was, because I couldn't remember how that sequence fit into the rest of the movie.
Mm.
It's my number 6. Typically, my top 10, it's all the old stuff. I mean, there's 2 that are very recent, but I think it's more nostalgic than anything else. But also, I feel like these hold up better than even some that came out, 15, 20 years ago. As Augie said, there's not much of a story, but I think that's to Disney's credit. They were able to take something that was not a consistent story, and they still made it very entertaining, even though it is very short. It's like barely an hour. It's a little bit over. Yes, the crows are. It's racist.
Oh boy.
There's no way around it. Boy, I ain't seen your elephant no how.
Oh dear God. Till I see an elephant fly.
We will not be discussing Song of the South, but that is the most questionable thing Disney has ever done.
Oh boy.
But there is another more racist.
It makes Dumbo and the other movie seem
look like a Martin Luther King biopic. Dumbo, another high recommend. I don't like all this agreement. Yeah. I feel like we need to.
It's until we get to like the later ones where we like start getting divisive with them. Now for something a little more traumatizing.
Yep.
Go ahead.
It's ruined many a childhood.
Introduce this one. And that would be Bambi. Now, if you actually watch this again, you'll realize this movie is actually a very big influence on eventually The Lion King, because you have this family who's ostensibly like the leaders of the forest, pretty much.
You have the prince.
Well, it's like, yeah, you have like the prince character, and even though we don't see Bambi's father that much, he's pretty much Mufasa.
He gives guidance.
Like Lion King, a parent dies, although
it's the opposite.
Although the parent dying in this one has much more of a shock value than it does in that movie, especially since you don't even see it happen.
But you hear
you hear it off screen, and really in this one, the villain is Man. Yes,
PETA, the movie.
Man is the villain in this movie.
This is PETA, the movie.
And it's just watching Man, and after this horrifying sequence, jumps forward a little bit in time to when Bambi's living in the forest. And what, you remember the awkward jump cut that occurs?
It's one of the strangest jump cuts I've ever seen in a movie. It goes from the gunshot, and he's like, your mother can't be with you anymore. Baby starts crying, all of a sudden it's like, la la la. And it's like all sunny and colorful.
Yeah. And then you get Thumper.
Flower.
Speaking of Disney's sexual innuendos, don't think you could sneak past the fact that you named the rabbit Thumper. Alright, Walt? We got that one. Putting it out there for you there.
Yeah, they certainly. It's my number 10. The reason I think it's my least favorite of the bottom 5. If for no other reason, it does get a little too dark for its own good. Not necessarily at the beginning. There's that scene with when the forest burns down at the end, and also
like the Lion King,
when the bird's like, "Oh shit, I'm getting out of here."
Yeah.
And then don't you hear another gunshot? I was like, "This movie's got the highest body count of any." But I think it's another timeless movie. I mean, I think out of all 5, this one dates the best.
Probably.
Great collection of characters. I think it's much better than Lion King.
Also follows the Dumbo model of being less than 75 minutes.
And Land Before Time took a lot from this too, because the mother dies in that too.
Exactly. Haven't seen Saludos Amigos, Three Caballeros, Make My Music. I haven't seen any of the next like 5.
I've seen all 3. Basically,
or Make My Music, Fun and Fancy Free, and Melody Time.
right. The only one out of those I can recommend is.
Are you sure you can recommend it?
Really, the closest one is Three Caballeros because it's got this really. Donald's a cockhound. He wants to get laid in that last third because he's chasing after girls on the beach. But a lot of them, they're not. They don't have that Disney panache. Like Saludos. I mean,
It's not even a movie.
Saludos Amigos is not a movie. It's 43 minutes of just Goofy and Donald. And this is the one that introduces the parrot from Three Caballeros.
I find it ironic that the movies with Donald Duck and Goofy are these first ones are the ones people don't remember.
Fun and Fancy Free has Donald and Goofy in it.
Again.
Out of all those, I think that's the one where they get the best stuff to work with. But none of these I can... The closest one, the highest one in the rankings for me is Three Caballeros, and that's at 25. It's not that they're bad films, it's just...
Forgettable.
They're very forgettable.
But the next one, I think you can talk about this one. You remember this one?
This is The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, which is it's 2 stories. It's the Sleepy Hollow story, and I think it's called The Talented Mr. Toad. Wind in the Willows.
Wind in the Willows, yeah.
I think the Sleepy Hollow stuff is probably the best adaptation of that's ever been done. It's atmospheric, it's dark. It looks like a Hammer film.
Before Hammer.
Before the Tim Burton film came out. Wind in the Willows I like, but the reason I like this movie as much as I do is for the Sleepy Hollow. I think
I think that's one everyone remembers because, frankly, I completely forgot that there was another story in this. I thought Sleepy Hollow was the whole movie until I looked into it recently. It was like, oh yeah, there was another story. Too bad I don't remember anything from it. But yeah, everything you said about the Sleepy Hollow segment is true. It takes all of Disney's animation excellence, but
it's got Bing Crosby
as
Ichabod.
Ichabod, and it takes their penchant for some really dark material and puts it in the forefront for this. You got Headless Horseman come in after you. It's kind of hard to hide the darkness in this one.
It's not Christopher Walken.
This came out even before Hammer was like...
Yeah, Hammer didn't get big till the mid-late 50s.
Then we get to the next traditional Disney princess movie. Probably the prototypical one, and that's Cinderella. With the meanest villain.
I could punch that woman in the face and go to sleep at night. She's such this evil, evil woman. If for no other reason, she has total control over Cinderella.
Plus, the design for Dracula in the Gary Oldman Dracula is taken right from her. I mean, especially with the hair, with the giant not buns, but it looks like a brain throbbing.
The geriatric design,
pretty much. It's like she doesn't do much. Like she holds Cinderella back.
She stares,
but you just have to look at her. And you're just like,
She stares.
Get away!
The most horrifying stare on the planet.
I haven't seen this one in a while, so I can't.
It's at 12. It's at 12 for me. It's a classic. The mice are probably my favorite thing in it.
Even though you find that song,
that work song is pretty annoying. And this is another movie that it's very much of its time. Like I don't think it dates as well as something like as Snow White.
Yeah.
Because these designs are very much of the 50s. And that cat, man. That cat is almost as evil as the stepmother.
I remember. It's like I remember Lady Tremaine, the stepsister.
Fairy godmother.
I remember the fairy godmother. but I don't really remember that much else. I remember the it's a pumpkin carriage. Right?
Yes.
I was trying to think.
Were you gonna say onion?
I was trying to think. Wait, it's not an onion. Hold on. I got everything there for a second.
It's a pumpkin, which is one of the best song sequences Disney's ever done with the music and the animation. It's great, but I don't love it enough to put it in my top 10. It is a very feminine movie.
But speaking of cats,
my favorite Disney character ever,
the Cheshire Cat in Alice in Wonderland. And I would agree with that too. I don't know my favorite Disney character, but he's my favorite Alice in Wonderland character. Because he's just so conniving the whole time.
Well, I love the design, the stripes, the eyes.
And then he's just like spinning around, and then he just like disappears except for his head. And you're just like, I just want a spin-off movie just with that cat. Like, I want to follow him around in Wonderland and his little adventures. This movie's trippy as all hell.
I think this is the most surreal movie Disney's done.
I mean, when you're adapting Alice in Wonderland, you're kind of asking for the surreal to come out, pretty much. And it's just, it's not as, surprisingly for Disney, even though they do usually put a lot of dark stuff in their movies, it's not as dark as it probably could have been.
I think this one walks a fine line,
especially since the original book is pretty damn.
Oh yeah, look at the Tim Burton film. It's a little bit closer,
but it's still.
This is better though. Mm-hmm. Great cast of characters. All the voices work.
Wait, Sterling Holloway is the cat.
Yeah, Catherine Beaumont does the voice of
Alice.
She would return for Peter Pan.
Mm-hmm. Edwin is the Mad Hatter.
Of course, the Red Queen of Hearts is probably one of the better Disney villains.
He says the Queen of Hearts, not the Red Queen. They're actually two different.
Yeah, the books are two different characters.
Mm-hmm. But then you get Tweedledee, Tweedledum,
March Hare, Mad Hatter, Caterpillar,
Dormouse. And that's what I love about Alice in Wonderland. It's just there's just so many characters filling it. Even though
some of them only show up for
and it's like Alice in Wonderland never had a story really.
There was no story.
It's just kind of like she goes into Wonderland, she just walks around pretty much.
And then she tries to get out.
But that's what makes it so memorable. Is like all these side characters that come in and just like fill the whole thing with life.
It's at 24 for me. I think it's really good, but because it's very trippy and there's really no consistent narrative. Basically, the way I did my rankings, there's only a handful of Disney films I can say are bad.
And I haven't seen it, most of them.
Yeah, it's really good. Definitely check it out. Better than the Tim Burton version. Although if you swapped Alan Rickman and Helena Bonham Carter, then this would be higher up.
Alan Rickman is the caterpillar. Yeah. You'll have to take over Peter Pan because I don't remember jack shit from it except for Hook and Smee.
Peter Pan. My big issue with it, I think it's good. It's 32, so it's like pretty close to the middle. It's okay. The Hook and Shmee stuff is fantastic. That's some of the best slapstick Disney's ever done. But
what if it was Dustin Hoffman and Bob Hoskins?
Well, they saved that movie from being any worse than it is. My big issue is it pales in comparison to the book. The book is much better. I don't like the way Tinkerbell's portrayed in this. It's not very.
Do you like how she's portrayed in anything besides?
Yeah,
the book?
in the 2003 film.
Okay.
Neverland, it's fine. Which is the live action sci-fi show. Which to me, that's the second best Peter Pan adaptation behind the 2003 Jason Isaacs film. It's okay. I think the Indian part is a little.
I was gonna say
that's a little racist.
Racism.
Peter Pan's characterized pretty well. All the kids are fine. It's fun. It's just not very memorable.
Yeah, I remember liking it. It didn't stand out to me.
No, it doesn't stand out. Speaking of racism.
Oh, okay. Now, is this the one you were saying is the worst?
This is the biggest example of racism in a Disney movie.
I don't know. For me, I think The Crows will take the cake, but this is definitely number 2. Lady and the Tramp.
No, it's not what you're thinking of. I love the Italian Chef. That's
No, the cats.
Yeah, I know. The Siamese cats.
Yep. We are Siamese.
The song is racist. The voices are very, very Asian.
And they're sneaky and nice.
I mean, the Siamese cats. Those are straight out of China.
And they're mischievous.
Lady and the Tramp, it's one spot higher than Peter Pan, actually. It's more nostalgic than anything else. I think the spaghetti scene is famous. It's probably the best scene in the movie. And the songs are okay. Like the Siamese Cat one and the He's a Tramp song. Those are the two things that stand out. But this is not something I rewatch. That's like the middle films are just ones that I don't sit down and rewatch again.
Yeah. Another movie that I like a lot, but can't remember really much except for the meatball or the spaghetti scene and the
cats.
And the cats, yeah, exactly. I literally don't like Peter Pan. I kind of remember some stuff, but this one I literally can't remember.
Yeah, Lady and the Tramp. It's not from a story perspective. It's nothing much.
Mm-hmm.
Even the animation's a little iffy.
That was when they started doing their period of more brushstroke kind of stuff.
I'm going to stay quiet for the next one now.
Why? Because my Raging Hard On
Yeah.
4 days is about to come out? Okay. So after an 8-year production schedule on Sleeping Beauty, it was finally released to the public, and it's clear to see why, at least in the animation department. This is easily one of the best animated movies. It takes, even compared to the recent stuff, it did a whole new art style that hadn't really been done before in Disney. Most of Disney stuff is really kind of rounded edges, sort of like smoothed over colors and backgrounds. This one, it's very angular, very like sharp edged, and they try to model everything more like medieval paintings, and you can see that, especially in the background. Also takes great advantage of the super widescreen format.
This is a movie that must be seen widescreen.
Yeah. After seeing it on full screen VHS for years, I couldn't believe that it took me that long for it to see it like that, and in Blu-ray no less. It was the first.
Also one of the best Blu-rays I've ever put out.
Mm-hmm. Now, its story merits can be debated, definitely. However,
it is a very weak story.
It is pretty thin, yes. They clearly focused much more on the animation, this one, than the story.
And the title character gets not much to do.
Well, she becomes a laying plot device halfway through the movie, pretty much. However, at least for me, that is made up for by the 3 fairies.
Could you actually name? I can't remember the names of the fairies.
The Powerpuff Girls. That's
Oh, that's right. They got the same color scheme.
The red one, the green one, and the blue one. No, honestly, at this moment, I can't remember their names, but I do remember.
Is it Blossom? Oh wait, that's the Powerpuff Girls.
Nope. Yeah, can't. Still
Isn't it Merryweather's one of them?
I think so. Hold on. I got this. Fauna, Merryweather, and Flora.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, the red. I didn't remember those until I just looked them up right now. But
you said you love this movie.
But well, because Maleficent, boy, for me, in the top 3 Disney villains ever.
Yeah, she's in my top 5.
She takes everything about the Queen and Snow White and just jets it up to the next level.
Even though her plot is even weaker than the Snow White one. She didn't get invited to the birthday party.
That's why she's just kind of pissed off. Because
that's why she flips shit.
Because she feels lonely that they didn't invite
her. All she's
her.
got is that raven.
And all the trolls around in her castle, pretty much. However, yes, even though the story is thin, it is one of my favorites because of Maleficent, because of the interaction and the relationships with the fairies, and because of the animation and the spectacular final 20 minutes or so when the prince and the fairies go at Maleficent, and then Maleficent unleashes the dragon within. It's spectacular. What's the next one?
Oh, are you all set?
Yes, I am. Go
It's
ahead.
in my top 20 for the sole reason of Maleficent. Everything else I could give or take. Because I know Sleeping Beauty is not the focal point, really. But for God's sakes, her name's in the title. You should have called this Maleficent.
Well, they're about to fix that for you.
I am very nervous about that movie. I need to see how the Sam Raimi Oz film does before I feel confident about Disney touching.
Well, I don't know. I think. You said you like Snow White and the Huntsman a lot.
Yeah, I do.
That's
because it's balls to the wall dark.
I feel like they're gonna do something.
The Snow White and the Huntsman wasn't done by Disney.
Yeah, but I feel like the Maleficent movie is gonna be similar to it because also like Snow White and the Huntsman, they have
Inspired casting.
They have a big name actress playing the main queen bitch of the whole thing, and they also have an unknown director doing it too. So I don't know.
Watch, they're gonna pull a Mirror Mirror and they're gonna release a second Sleeping Beauty movie.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, me neither.
I think the next one will be a little bit more in agreement on. That's
much like Sleeping Beauty.
100%.
The best merit in this movie, one of the top 5 Disney villains again.
Mm-hmm.
Cruella de Vil. I mean, that's it. That's all you need.
I mean, really, yeah. You could even forget all about the dogs and forget all about Horace and Jasper. But luckily, everything comes together. And then on top of all that stuff, you got Cruella de Vil. You can't get much.
She wants to skin puppies alive. I mean, that's pretty dark.
That's worse than wanting the heart cut out.
I don't know. It's one thing to kill an animal, it's another thing to kill a human being.
But they're puppies. They're so,
I know.
But they're cute. Who would want to hurt a puppy?
I love. She has one of my favorite designs ever with the hair, the colors, and then this green.
She looks like a skeleton.
Yeah, this green puff of smoke just following her all over the place.
And it's just, well, this effort also proves why their live action version didn't work later on, because honestly, when you take away the voices from the dogs, it takes away something from the movie.
Even though you got Glenn Close, who's fantastic,
and you have Hugh Laurie
and
Ron Weasley's dad as Horace and Jasper playing them, but this one, their animation version, held up surprisingly well. When I rewatched it again last year, I remember I thought it was great. I really liked it, but I didn't realize how much I loved it until I rewatched it again, and I was like, "Damn, this was great." And I realized, hey, wait, there's also a lot like Finding Nemo too when you think about it. And then I realized,
actually, yeah, that's a.
And I thought to myself, I've seen Finding Nemo so many times. Which one could be better? And I was like, oh, that's right. Finding Nemo doesn't have Cruella de Vil. 101 Dalmatians gets the point here.
It's in my top. It's number 9. Probably one of my favorites, both nostalgically and now. I think out of all the ones in this period, it's the one that stands out the most.
I'd say it's probably my top 5 of their stuff.
I think this is the one when the animation style works the best.
Well, this is also even more so than Sleeping Beauty, where they really start to bring out that late 50s, early to 70s,
the slump, as they call it.
That pencil stroke, brush stroke style, where it looks more like a painting.
It's more like a painting, and then the characters are a little more exaggerated. It's more watercolor painting.
Unfortunately, that leads to a string of more forgettable stuff, starting with Sword in the Stone.
Where the hell did I put this movie?
Probably really low.
37.
Because I saw this movie once when I was a kid. Haven't seen it since. I don't remember a goddamn thing about it, except that it's about Arthur.
All right, this is basically an educational movie. All this movie's about is Arthur learning lessons. Only highlight is Merlin and Archimedes, because the villain is thrown in at the last minute. As awesome as that Wizard's Duel is with the animation, there's just not a lot of weight in this movie. And Arthur's a very bland character. And obviously the boy went through puberty, because it sounds like 2 different kids halfway through the movie.
Not much to talk about.
This one is that much.
I think the next one will give us a little more to play with. No?
I think that's the last one before Disney died.
I'm not sure. Hold on. I feel like
Sword in the Stone was the last one.
Let's just check. Hold on. Sorry, people.
66. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sword in the Stone was the last one made while he was still alive.
Not the best.
Because technically, Jungle Book he was supervising before he died.
Yeah.
Jungle Book, I think we have a lot more to say about.
Because, well, it's a kind of like a precursor. It feels like a successor to Bambi, but a precursor to Tarzan, also pretty much, in their filmography.
This is my least favorite of the three.
It's just, I mean, really, everyone of course remembers the songs, especially Bare Necessities.
Well, that one song.
Yeah, or that one. I want to be like you.
That's right.
Come on. Can't forget King Louie. Also kind of dancing around some racial stereotypes with that character too. But everyone loves Baloo. We love King Louie. And the two villains, they're pretty good.
Well, you got George Sanders doing Shere Khan. Going to close my eyes and count to 10.
If you're going to get a villain in that era, you might as well hire George Sanders to do the voice for it. And then you have Cass.
It's Khan.
No, Ka.
Is it Khan?
Well, Shere Khan. And
yeah, Khan.
And then there's Cass.
I was just about to make a Star Trek joke, but... Khan! I think the best thing I can say about this movie is it's fun. It's got catchy songs, underrated villains, pretty good animation. So this was at a point where I was starting to get turned off by that style. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, you could do something a little different. Yeah. Especially with the Jungle Book.
Yeah, I feel like there could have been some more imaginative things you could have done with this.
But it's number 23 for me. It's good. Mm-hmm. Just shy of being great for me.
Yeah.
Red, I haven't seen it in a long ass time, but
me neither. But I think it's a testament that I remember that much, considering how much I forgot about all the other stuff. So are we splitting it up now at the end of this era, or what?
This only took 37 minutes, so... Well,
okay.
Because I think the Renaissance ones are going to give us the most to talk about.
Unfortunately, we get to another one that we also completely forget about.
This might be my least favorite of all of them up to this point.
The Aristocats. Cute kitties. That's
it.
That's what I got, pretty much.
I put this at 47, so it's in my bottom 6. It's just boring. It's dull. The animation is pretty bad. It doesn't stand out.
Weak villains.
One of the worst villains they've ever done. Just nothing memorable. It's just... It seems like this was made... It's like, oh, we've made 101 Dalmatians for dogs.
We're going to
make this for cat lovers.
So we get a cat movie, pretty much. And it's like, it felt like they didn't really try with it either.
Obviously not, because this movie stinks. It's just...
It's only worth watching if you're a cat lover.
And even then, I love cats too, but I struggle to get through this.
Now, forgive me. I feel like I'm not in this enough, but I also don't remember much about this next one here, Robin Hood, except for John, pretty much. The Prince John, and his thumb sucking.
What about the snake? His sidekick?
No, I don't remember that at all.
I knew it. I have this at number 40, and I get attacked for this a lot. I don't have the nostalgic love for this movie that apparently a lot of people seem to have.
Yeah, I don't even realize.
I saw this later in life, so maybe that's why I don't love it. Mm-hmm. It's fun, but I'm not a fan of this animation anymore. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, we're going to make them all animals for no reason. Granted, it's smart to make them a fox, but so it's very meh.
Another bland effort from them. But thankfully, their next one is a significant jump in quality and memorable.
Jumps all the way up to number 7 on my top 10.
With the many adventures of Woody the Pooh. It's just What can you say about Winnie the Pooh?
It's pure childhood innocence. It's accessible to kids of all ages. Great collection of characters. Mm-hmm. And of course...
Okay, what is that scene you're talking about? Because I don't...
Right, it's the Beelzebubs and the... it's that trippy... Just, when you get the chance, type in Winnie the Pooh trippy sequence. I can't remember what the animals are called, but... It's in the middle of the movie.
Mm-hmm. It's just... It's one of the more laid-back efforts, really. I mean, just Winnie the Pooh. It's just about kind of just hanging around, enjoying life.
One character for each mental state of psychosis.
Yep.
The ADHD, depressed, anxiety issues.
That's
Eeyore's still the king. Why are you in such a bad mood? I have a nail in my anus. Number 7 for me, mostly because I saw this movie a boatload as a kid. Mm-hmm. And I think it's the one I really reacted the most to.
It's funny, I watched this a lot as a kid. I didn't realize it was a Disney movie until...
No, because this is one that was... It was something that you wouldn't expect Disney at that time to do, because they were doing... This is not a fairy tale or part of folklore. This was a collection of books.
It was a more recent book, too.
Yeah. But it's really... I really love it. Mm-hmm. I was really glad that they made a new one, which we'll talk about later.
By the way, Blu-ray coming out spring this year of this one. A little back to...
speaking of boring.
Dropping down again.
Funny, you read this title and you're like, how is this movie boring?
The Rescuers. Now, even though I will agree this one is in their more forgettable ones, I still... haven't seen it in a while, but this was always one of my favorites as a kid. I always felt like attached to they're attached to the two main characters, and I felt really sympathetic towards the girl in it. And even though the villain in this one isn't one of their best ones, she's just so, like, she looks like one of those, like, crazy women that just puts, like, all makeup on her, and she just looked freaky, and, like, I was...
Oh, it's Madame Maxine or something like that?
Madame Medusa. Well, there you go. With a name like that, you better be a villain. Voiced by Geraldine.
This is in my bottom 10. I'm sorry, that girl is annoying. Penny is annoying as hell. I wish she stayed kidnapped. I think it's Penny, right?
You sure you're not? Oh, yeah, it is Penny.
I guess my big issue is this movie's pretty boring. It's got a much better sequel.
Mm-hmm. Which I will agree.
Yeah, this is not one I recommend.
But water surfing on crocodiles.
Yeah, but that's outdone by the sequel. Yeah. It's freaking aerial diving in that.
Mm-hmm. And damn it. It's so frustrating how we keep getting this string of these forgettable efforts.
Yeah, this is a down period.
Especially since, actually, I don't think I've seen The Fox and the Hound in its entirety. Only bits and pieces of it here and there. And yeah,
it's too typical. It's a very typical story. Kurt Russell's good. Mickey Rooney's good. But there's this one pop song that annoys the living hell out of me. Mm-hmm. It's when the owner lets the fox go. Would have been much better with just a musical score, much like another Disney movie. But yeah, this movie is very atypical. It's cookie cutter. I think the only reason I recommend this is if you have a nostalgic love. If you've never seen it before, you'll be disappointed. I saw this later in life, so that's why I don't love it.
It's one for the kids, really, pretty much. And okay, now we get to the
one that almost financially ruined that company.
The charcoal gem in there. Well, not so much gem, but the piece of charcoal in Disney's line of work, because it's their only bomb.
This lost to the Care Bears movie. That should tell you something.
When a Disney movie, the King Disney loses to the Care Bears movie, that's pretty something. Although, perhaps, even Not that the Care Bears movie is a great work of art, but perhaps because this movie just wasn't good.
No, it's not a good movie.
It had Black Cauldron. It's gained its following over the years.
For some reason.
Well, I think it's gained it because it's just so damn dark.
Yeah.
But yeah, even though I love Disney movies because they're able to inject a certain level of darkness into movies, the darkness doesn't automatically... It feels like, with this one, it feels like they realized that their movies had a lot of dark stuff, and they thought, oh, let's make the entire movie of the dark things, but they forget to actually make, a sort of a good movie out of the darkness, pretty much. And it just kind of ends up being a dreary, tired
mess
effort. I mean, the only thing really to recommend about it is the Horn King, the villain. And even he's not in the upper pantheon of
this
Disney
movie
villains.
has a plot that's just too ridiculous for its own good. The main
The main character too annoying.
The main character's annoying, and there's a friggin' side character that sounds like Gollum and Jar Jar Binks mixed together. I can't remember the name of the character, but wow.
Wait, which one? The
furry one?
I don't remember. These names are so ridiculous in this movie.
It's just this movie's too dark for its own good. It's uneven. The pig can see the future. And that's why the Horn King wants this pig.
So somebody at Disney was taking a little bit too much of the drugs they were handing out when they did this one.
It's too dark for most kids too. It's not. I don't know what to say. It's just.
It is dark.
It's in the bottom, close to the bottom.
Yeah.
What's there?
Black Cauldron.
I haven't seen it or heard of it.
Yeah, this is the one no one. Unless the ones that have a cult.
Well, it's the one no one knows because it's the one no one saw either too when it came out.
What year?
85, I think.
Yeah, it was like mid 80s.
Yeah, because Oliver and Company was 87.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so before.
Oh, but we got a good one in between.
And now we come to one of my personal favorites.
This is my top 5. It's my number 5.
And I would say the most underrated of all of Disney's
Did you read my notes before we started? Because I've said everything that you said.
Kind of, but I don't remember them really. And that's The Great Mouse Detective.
That's awesome.
Oh, there we go. We got another one here that likes it too.
I hardly remember it, but I...
You know you loved it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I like Oliver and Company too. I missed that.
It's an adaptation of the Sherlock Holmes stories, and fun little fact.
No, these are actually based off a book.
Well, I know, but
it's Sherlock Holmes.
I know it's based off its own book series, but it's Sherlock Holmes.
I know it is.
I mean, it's like Watson, Dawson,
Basil.
Yeah, exactly.
Ratigan.
You name the main character after an actor who played Sherlock Holmes, pretty much.
Ratigan has the same amount of letters as Moriarty.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, Vincent Price.
Vincent Price is the man of this.
He makes this movie.
He's got the perfect voice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at the design of this character. And this is one that, unlike someone like Robin Williams, I can tell it's him, but I'm not.
You can feel it's this character.
Yeah, and I don't. And it doesn't take me out of the movie.
Yeah.
I think because he's a very classical actor. He did a lot of horror stuff, so that. I mean, him playing a villain shouldn't shock you.
Yeah.
So I'm not back by the time you get to bed because you leave the door unlocked.
Yeah.
And even though this one doesn't have that whimsical style that Disney's usually known for, I mean, not that Black Cauldron was known for its whimsicalness, but even though it doesn't have that fairy tale quality to it, and it's more straightforward, it still works as it is. It doesn't have as many songs, so it does have a couple that are pretty memorable, especially Ratigan's song. And then there's like a very bizarre mouse burlesque.
Yeah, they're
sequence.
basically prostitutes.
It was like, I don't know if you're watching it, it was kind of making me like a little uncomfortable too, because it was like...
Disney's always known for their subliminal messaging.
But that was pretty forward with that one. But it's got a lot like very sympathetic main characters, great villain.
Great villain-hero relationship.
Mm-hmm. And although I love how when they introduce their like rivalry, what you haven't even seen Radigan yet, but they're still talking to Basil, and I think does he? Oh no, he points at it. He points at a picture.
And the picture smiles.
No, he points at a picture of Radigan, and Radigan's just kind of sitting like in the picture. He's just like looking at it, like straight face. But then when it does a close up of it, all of a sudden it's like smiling with this like evil grin, just to accentuate the moment. And I also love how everyone credits Beauty and the Beast for its innovative CGI use, but this came at least 5 years before it.
Yep.
With the Big Ben scene at the end,
Which is awesome. That's one of the best climaxes we've ever done.
and actually speaking of the Big Ben sequence, that was another really creative thing. Is that they really were able to work in a lot of neat references to previous Holmes stories for fans of the original books. Well, both original book series, especially with that final Big Ben sequence in the Reichenbach Fall. And
Still better than both Guy Ritchie films.
Yep. Probably. I mean, I haven't seen any of the classic Sherlock Holmes, but out of all the Sherlock Holmes movies I've seen, this is probably my favorite.
All the ones with Ben Kingsley as Watson are worth watching. Those are probably my favorites, but this is pretty up there.
Uh-huh.
Definitely the most underrated movie. Check it out if you haven't seen it.
Mm-hmm. Maybe it'll be a favorite too. Not a favorite for you.
Actually, no. This is 35 in my...
It's just those songs.
It's got my favorite song ever in a Disney movie. So Oliver and Company is just Billy Joel the movie.
Wait a minute. Wait. James Mangold co-wrote this?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
It's basically Oliver Twist, but not Oliver Twist.
Like you could really do Oliver Twist.
Well, they did, and it was called Oliver, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's okay. I mean, with the exception of the music, it's not memorable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got the Billy Joel song, you got the Huey Lewis song.
Yeah, pretty much.
Of course, Ben Miller gets a song.
Yeah, pretty much the song.
One of the best Disney villain deaths, even though the villain sucks. He gets hit by a fucking train.
Isn't once again, it's just another like. It's enjoyable. It's more enjoyable than their other bland 70s efforts, but
that's because of the music, and I really dig the animation to this. They really get New York down.
But it does have a certain energy to it that keeps you entertained, even though you're probably not. Even though it probably won't stick with you long after you've watched it.
I think I'm going to cut it off right here. Then we'll make it up to part 2, because I think these are going to be the ones that'll.
Yep.
We're going to touch on the Renaissance when we come back.